planning and zoning meeting tonight. Let's start out with roll call. Gwen? No, you're throwing me off because she said Nancy.
Yes, present, here.
Ruth Ann.
Here.
Is our new member. Eric.
Here.
Ren. Here. Lynn.
Here.
And Chris.
Here.
Okay, we have a full board tonight, and that's the first in a long time that we have all 7 here. Let's go ahead and start out and review our minutes from our last meeting. Did anybody see any changes that needed made? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes.
A motion by Chris to approve the minutes,
I'll second the motion.
second by Nancy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. First item on the agenda, we have a conditional use for a metal building. Is it all right if I state what I feel about that conditional use, Ryan, or do we want to discuss that?
Our business would have come in other business, but you kind of preempted our other business conversation, but it's here. I think it's fair to approve or deny it. And yeah, you're the chair. You press all the thing when you like.
I'd like to state what I feel about these conditional uses on the metal buildings. I came last night to city council and just let them know what I feel about it during the public comment period. I'll kind of summarize. Basically, we had the 2 conditional uses prior, and I was kind of uneasy about those because I don't remember seeing that change come to planning and zoning that we made metal buildings a conditional use. I thought maybe it got put in with that first half of the chapter 17 updates that we never saw that council approved. It wasn't. It's later. Conditional uses are later in the code. That part is later in the code. Right now, our code states that accessory buildings are permitted uses in a residential zone. So my opinion is we shouldn't need this conditional use because it's already a permitted use. And conditional uses, if we look at our trainings that we've had from Utah League of Cities and Towns and stuff, those are things that we can only apply to something if we have a standard for already in the ordinance. We don't have any aesthetic standards in our ordinance. So to me, this is something that we shouldn't be wasting the time of the residents or others on this. That's how I feel about it. We do have it as a public hearing tonight.
We do have the definition of conditional use, and here's a little slow here, but trying to bring it up. So in conditional use, the definition of conditional use as defined in our code means a land use that because of its unique characteristic or potential impact on the municipality, surrounding neighbors, or adjacent land use may not be compatible in some areas of a zone, or may be compatible only if certain conditions are required that mitigate or eliminate the determined impact. So at this point for the past year, we have, because of certain questions that got arose, we have had the conditional use process applied through that definition on
Buildings that are not built on
non-conventional construction.
And that's where part of where I see the problem is because state law says we have to list our conditional uses in the ordinance, and we can only apply standards that are already within our ordinance. We don't have standards saying that we can only use conventional building. We don't have metal buildings listed as a conditional use. That's,
Obviously, those are two different interpretations of where we're at, and with the city council being the judicial.
right,
They take on those whenever
right.
there's a discrepancy.
And
That's where it's gone there.
And that's why I feel about this. But
How
on
did the
that,
council feel when you went there last night?
It was in the public comment period, therefore they don't comment on it. That's kind of where we're at, so I'll get it on the agenda and allow them to comment on it. On that note, let's go ahead and discuss what's on our agenda. Darren Thomas is planning on putting in a garage behind his house.
Address?
Address is 1090 South State. How big is your lot, Darren?
An acre.
An acre on that lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
You pull that up on your map?
Can you show where that is?
I don't know what we get, but I just. Well, and I don't think a business thing, small to repair. Because it's residential. Oh, I don't buy. I'm gonna scope it out.
Do it that way, huh?
Then you can kind of see the lines of the parcel.
Yeah.
The State Street,
It's right there.
even both of these lots.
Yeah.
He'll be putting it on the back behind the house. 35 by 40.
How tall?
12-foot walls on it.
Okay. Do we need anything else you want to bring up, Darren, so people know what's going on before we move into public hearing?
No.
Pretty cut and dry, isn't
Yeah, I
it?
just want to put a garage, put
Okay.
my stuff in it.
You might mention it's a coast to coast, what the building manufacturer is.
Yeah, it's just the metal building, like the carport that you're seeing put up, but it'd be garage, I'm gonna have 3 garage doors on it. So,
It's a coast to coast style building, they're all engineered.
yeah, it's an engineering building.
So it'll be a 3-bay type thing, 3 doors?
Yeah,
Okay.
Is that your lot next to it?
yeah,
You've got a fence around the back of your property.
yeah, there's fence
Yes.
on both sides of where it'll be.
So that's the lot that
I was thinking too.
she
Okay.
has.
Let's go ahead and consider ourselves in public hearing right now. Does anybody in the public, would they like to comment about this? Have any other questions or anything?
How tall are the sliding doors or the garage doors?
A 10 by 10. Well, 2 of them are 10 by 10, and then I got an 8 by 8.
And what purpose do you want to use this for?
I'm gonna put my 4-wheelers and stuff like that in it, and vehicles, so.
The reason I asked that, because I had somebody call that was coming in for this. He was concerned about the purpose. That's why that's the question, just so it wasn't.
It's just a secondary garage.
Personal use.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. And I would consider us back in a regular session. And do we have any comments from the board? Questions?
Will it have electricity in it also, or water, any,
Electricity
it will
eventually,
have power?
yeah.
And maybe a light.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have light for the doors, the electricity for them, that's all, so, and just some plug-ins and, you know, so I can plug something in if I want to.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
If he turns it into a shop, does that change?
Huh?
Does it matter if it, I mean, future use, if it gets turned into the shop, do we care?
It's not big enough for a shop.
It's not big enough for a shop, okay.
It's a residential use.
Yeah.
It's a residential unit, it's a personal garage.
Right.
Can't do it commercial.
It's gonna be sitting, in the one picture there, you can see my house, it's gonna be sitting in the very back corner, basically behind my house.
Okay.
It's all,
The northwest corner, looks like you're.
Yeah, of the lot.
be the southwest
South,
corner,
oh.
yes.
Yes, there's a possible easement there with Strata, so we're gonna be holding them.
There's nothing, the deadline, I've already got Strata there. He told me that I could just knock the box down if I wanted.
What kind of fence do you have there?
What's that?
What kind of fence do you have behind there?
There's a vinyl.
A vinyl
strip
fence?
Behind me and then a chain link on the one side of it,
What
with privacy in it and then trees along it.
What about access to it?
It's just through my driveway.
Sure,
I got a
it's
huge
just-
driveway.
It's a
here.
wide driveway.
Okay,
So-
State Street.
Yeah, just right off State
off
Street.
State Street, okay.
Is there enough room for it to not be over the top of your sewer line?
Yeah, my sewer line comes out about the middle of my lawn and runs straight south. So,
Offset from the property line. You'll have it offset enough from the property line, it won't
Yeah,
try.
We looked at it, we went through the easements.
Okay.
yeah,
Whatever it is, when we actually issued the permit.
Yeah, when it comes to a building permit, setbacks will be determined.
So we pretty much looked at 3 feet.
yeah. Dean already come down and went over it with me on the size to make sure that the lot was big enough.
Gotta cover a basis.
Anything else? I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to go ahead and approve the request.
We have a motion from Eric to approve this conditional use. We have a second.
I'll second it.
Second by Lynn. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So, just coming back.
Next, we have a site approval for Mad Sports and Fitness. Killians, who's doing that? You want to come tell us all about that?
Okay. So, we have been in the process of trying to build a gym with a racquetball court in it. And we already own the property, but it is zoned for residential. And we would like approval to zone it commercial, it's on the boundary of commercial property already, and construct a building on that property,
Now, go back to that.
which,
It's zone commercial.
It's zone commercial already, I thought.
Zone commercial.
is it?
So we're just doing
Not
it,
here for zoning.
we're doing a master site plan.
Oh, well, I thought that it was some residential, sorry.
No, it was zone commercial from day one.
Yeah.
Actually here for site plan approval, so they
Okay.
can build the building. That's why
So-
we have the building plans.
Okay, so I have the building plans here for the, and I think you have a copy as well.
Where is this at?
It's 500 east, 100 south.
Here's a trailer park on, Fifth East.
Okay.
The old roller skating rink, that's now the food pantry. It'd be next door to that.
This would be down below.
Yeah, it's down off the hill, isn't it?
Off the
Right
hill,
off the
yeah,
hill,
down
right,
off the
it's the
hill.
corner lot right off the hill.
And we own both that L piece and the small square piece above it. It'll sit, the building will actually sit to the south side, the south end where that L is. It's 100 by 130 foot building. And the sidewalls are 20 foot.
Okay. The front is facing which direction?
So the front will face northeast.
It'll face to 500 south,
500 east.
the east, yeah.
Okay.
And it'll be down on the
So that,
corner closest to the trailer park.
Is where the building is and then the
Yeah.
parking lot in front.
The
Okay.
parking lot will go there.
Okay.
Right. And one reason for that, the utilities are in that corner.
Okay.
It's easiest to get, because they're kind of like issues.
and they have done measurements and make sure it can sit 30 feet off of each property line and it will fit perfect in that area. And the contractor and architect has worked with Dean to make sure we have adequate parking and everything for code.
What did he do that 70?
I was thinking it was 56.
It was
We're way
72
back.
before and now it's
Added some,
56
though.
with the smaller building.
We have more that's required than required by law. There's more spaces than are required.
So what are we looking for?
So we have
The site plan is for
So anytime a commercial property is developed, you have a site plan because then you evaluate the total lot, allow the planning commission to evaluate that site plan. So you're saying if the site plan and the area where that's sitting feels appropriate, then it would be approval of that, and they would move forward. This would be the last that they would have planning and zoning wise, then they would go to council, make sure the site plan is.
How big is your building gonna be?
100 by 130.
And what's the construction?
It's gonna be a 2A. 2A and a 5B. It's gonna be a metal building that's 100 by 100. And then they're gonna have a set of office buildings on the north side that's gonna be constructed in wood with a 2-hour wall separation. That's gonna be for, it's considered a B location. They're gonna be having all kind of, it's therapy type offices in there. They're gonna have.
We're gonna put in a cryotherapy machine.
Right, so the office will house that. So we got 5B and then.
So this is the main metal and then
That's
that's
the
the
office.
others.
You can show 'em.
They have a set.
I printed them, so. How far are you using just the L-shaped lot or will it be going up into the other lot?
So I think,
The building is sitting on the main portion of the square lot.
Right.
The L section is where they're gonna need to take the sewer, which they own, because the sewer
Uh-huh.
runs off the hill from the Works building.
Okay.
And that's the only sewer available in the area. And that's why we're talking about those kinds of height issues. So that's why they pitched the building where it is, and they have that easement to access the sewer line back there. And they own all that property.
Does that kind of show?
So the upside down.
you got the south on the top.
Okay.
Control R.
And then the portion against First South next to the parking lot, you're gonna landscape all that so it looks better than the weeds and.
Yeah, it'll be cleaned up, and we won't have weeds around, we're told that we need a sidewalk and asphalt parking lot and all that, and then we'll landscape it.
Okay,
It'll be zero scape. There won't be grass.
Zero scape.
Maybe just few trees, bushes, and gravel.
okay. Do you have any other questions on that? I think it looks good to me. If we don't have any questions, do we have a motion to approve this master site plan with a recommendation to approve to city council?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion to approve by Lynn,
And I'll second.
second by Eric. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Now you get to move on and do the same thing at city council.
Thank you.
Where did my agenda go? Okay, the next one. There it is. Lot line adjustment, Jonathan Meeks.
Okay, before Jonathan gets going, let me give you some history on this.
I was really hoping you would do that.
This particular issue was delivered to me in September. Chris Buxton had instigated this process. There's kind of a little piece of property in the middle of nowhere that's a weed patch. And so he was working on coming in and getting this done. And he passed away. So it kind of sat there for a bit. I talked with Greg and, anyway, Jonathan come in to see me and I told him where he could get the development that was off the there. And so we're just continuing the process that Chris has started to put this little patch of ground that was in just a utility easement, so that he could take care of it.
It's adding this piece
Correct.
into the lot. Before this piece was on down here and it came up around and included, but it just cuts that, and puts that into that lot. This is a utility easement for a major water line, so.
You're taking it off of the bottom lot and adding it to the.
Right. Right now, most of that easement is owned by what's Lot 3A in that picture, and there has been an adjustment to the Lot 9A border as well. And this just, I live in 38A of the golf course, and basically what this is doing is just straightening all of these borders out so that all of the lots make more sense and more usable.
Okay. Makes sense then.
Who owns 3A?
Lot 3A is owned by Dr. Terry Buxton at the moment.
And the one above that has a home on it, right?
Yes, it does.
Is that a lot of, is that where Mitchells live in Lot 1?
And yes, Gil Mitchell lives in Lot 1 on the,
Right.
on the left side of that cul-de-sac is where we're connected.
Okay,
Sounds pretty straightforward.
yeah. No other concern from staff because you already looked through it plenty.
Yes. It was Mike, we were glad that he came in. In fact, when he came in, I says, I've got a building for you. I've been wondering who's gonna come in. And I talked to Greg about continuing the process about a month before Jonathan came in to see me.
What was 15 minutes of I've got no idea what I'm doing was 30 seconds of Dean saying, here, go finish.
Okay,
I move approval.
I have a motion by Lynn,
I'll second.
second by Ren. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I need that as well.
So this is development. I've not been able to obtain the signatures from the other landowners yet, but I am in communication with them. And we'll get that approved by the time we extend.
Who are the other landowners?
So a representative of Buckskin Enterprises will need to sign for Lot 3A, and Lot 9A is Rusty and Amanda Keel.
And they're all aware, it's just,
Everybody was in line. It's like I say, it was delivered to me from Jerry Allred who prepared it.
okay,
And then Chris passed away before he was able to give it to me. So I've been holding this since September, waiting for someone to come see it.
And here, right?
19th, right?
Yes.
19th day of
June.
June. 19th. All right. Now you can
My neighborhood.
get the neighbors on
My
it.
neighborhood.
Does his signature?
Your
need to go-
neighborhood?
Your signature needs to be on that?
Just around the corner.
The other
different than what you're
signatures.
used to, huh?
Not where I work, everything is
Yeah.
notarized.
Yeah.
Will the other signatures need to be notarized on this as well?
Let's look at it and see what it says.
We've never. Because Carolyn has to
Council is attested.
Yeah, see, here's,
Recorder
sign. So it
signed.
does
is-
need,
yeah, there's 2 acknowledgements here.
so,
The council needs to sign, and here's an acknowledgement for,
right, and so,
so there's planning and zoning and council, and here's 2 acknowledgements and an owner's dedication, so probably the owners are the ones that need to be notarized.
Okay, that's fine.
usually they're already all signed when we see them.
He didn't have a lot of time to have it.
Yeah, I've known about this for about 4 days.
Get this on the agenda. for zoning, so.
When did I approach you, Dean, on Thursday?
Oh, it was around less than 2
It's
weeks.
hard because
Just trying to get him on the agenda.
subdivision, you need to go first. And then it ties in the golf course, it's a mess up there.
Yeah. Oh, you're fine.
It's a mess up there.
You're fine. It is.
There's 3 subdivisions trying to come together now.
Right, yeah. But we will get the signatures acquired and take the next step. Thank you so much.
Okay. And you got them down for the council meeting. Okay.
Wonderful.
July 16th.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. 5:30.
All right. Anybody have other business we want to bring up tonight?
Our only other business was in hopes to get the opinion of the planning zone. That was our
Yep.
plan to come. You preempted us, and that's okay. But our plan was to come and ask the feedback of the planning zone, because we'd like to make the recommendation that we move away from the conditional use permits for metal buildings, and move that. We have noticed, we've studied it for a year, we've had it that way for a year. We have, none has been denied or conditions set. And now we believe that there's sufficient precedent that establishes and says, based on the precedent of that year, we feel comfortable that around town, metal buildings are fairly acceptable. And but at that point, it wasn't at the time. And so our recommendation is to get your feedback and to see if you have a recommendation. We've heard Steve's, but hearing from the rest would be helpful for us to say, is that something? I know that Ruth Ann had one close to hers, and there's been others. I don't know whether you got a letter, Nancy, on this one, but there has been some in different areas, and you all represent different areas of the community. If there's a metal building, we've erred on the side of public notice of that and saying, hey, you know what, let's see that. 2 ways we can go is we can either back off on the requirement and say, okay, well, all will get approved, let's go that way. Or if we say, hey, you know what, we really think that it really still needs to come, we can formalize it in ordinance and go that direction. But we'd like to have your feedback on where you think we have to go. So
There was one that raised a little ire.
there was. There was.
I think that's an understatement.
There was, and.
But that one wouldn't happen again, right?
Oh, absolutely. It will happen again.
It could, if
Everything
they don't
was
come
done,
here, it could.
everything was done right and proper when that permit was issued.
But I thought somewhere that if it was over a certain percentage of the house size,
There was an issue in planning and zoning code that said that you may not exceed over 30% of the footprint of the home on any building or group of buildings that had never been enforced in the city, and nobody was even aware of it, including.
so is it there still?
It is not. That has been
That was
eliminated
taken
from the code. Now it's your percentage of the lot that you may cover with buildings.
Now
At
what?
the time,
It was a percentage of the home, and now it's a percentage of the lot.
and that was always there. This other clause was in special regulations. I've been talking with a couple of the previous planning directors, and I'm taking the buildings that were never enforced at any time, and nobody was aware of it, that it was on the books.
I kind of liked it, but
I mean, but that's been omitted, but as far as we.
the council did away with it.
Yes.
Mhm.
Done away. As far as we knew, when Dean Wilson got his permit, everything was right, proper, we discussed it. And if that came up again, that same permit would be issued to anybody.
In this one, the discussion would be is, should Dean Wilson's, and not to use his, for example, but using that because it's public, any building, and at this point, the question comes, is should it have come for conditional use permit? The actual request was a lot combination, and that came through as a combination of lot, not as conditional use. But we have required similar type buildings to come through conditional use. But the question comes is should they? I mean, if there's a metal building proposed in any, I mean, every one of you represent a different part of town. Is metal buildings in your part of town, as a general rule, is that kind of standard and okay? Have we just seen the ones in the past year that they've kind of been in those areas? And we're trying to explore that. And that was our intent. We visited about it.
I think it's like a metal building. A metal building is not constructed to the building code. It's an engineered structure. It in no way, shape, or form falls underneath the building code. It's not made of conventional materials or anything else. Every metal building, including the coastal codes, have to be engineered, or they can't be erected. And that's the difference right there. And that's why we went with them, because on previous, there was a lot of input and actually when it came up first, it was as conditional use, and then they changed it to combining lots. And then it fell within an accessory building on there. But the bottom line of this metal buildings is they're all an engineered building. They don't come underneath the building code. And that's what we did, just because a lot of the public said we did not allow to talk about this. Why weren't we contacted? And in the future, either we're gonna have public hearings or it'll be just the same way. We're just trying to give, everybody the chance. We just want to be fair with everybody and be transparent as possible. So we're more than willing to go either way.
So let me ask this, if we have somebody build a garage stick built and decide to metal side it, so it looks metal from the outside, like an engineered building.
That's metal siding. That's not a metal building.
Right,
Metal is is a facade. We're talking about a metal frame.
right, and that's where, we would have to define these metal buildings too,
No, a metal building is an engineered structure. It's
Right.
not built to a
But we would have to have that definition. I mean, there'd be a lot of,
The definition is already in
Oh.
the code.
The metal building that's already engineered.
You're
It's already in the
talking
code.
what the facade looks like,
right,
whether it looks like a metal, like a
Right.
metal building,
Be-
or whether it looks
because
like
I think a lot of the
facade.
public clamor was the appearance,
That was-
Well, in the particular area it was in,
yeah,
And facade is controlled oftentimes through CC&R.
right,
We don't have anything that controls facade.
right,
Having it look like a metal building and having it built as a metal building are two different things.
right,
You can have one look like one that's used conventional construction. You can have one that is built as a metal building, look like something that isn't a metal building.
right, but I think
Facade is
that,
not the question, and that hasn't been.
So-
well, I think with the one that caused the ruckus, the public clamor was a lot of the facade. I think they saw the framework go up and that made them wonder about what it's gonna look like in the end. I think if it would have looked as if it were just another home, or something with stucco and things like that, I think people wouldn't have thrown such a fit about it, and so I think that there's
Well, it sounds
definition.
like to me that the only reason people would ever have a problem with it is because of the way it looks. But the way it is right now, the way it looks, is not a legitimate reason to not approve it.
Not the look that's coming. It's
The appearance,
conventional construction, that it may be
But
different.
what I'm saying is that's not, if it were to come before us as a conditional use and everybody was complaining and saying, I don't want it there because of the way it looks, we wouldn't be able to disallow it based on that. So it kind of, in my mind, becomes a mute point at that.
if somebody's doing a subdivision, they can do CCNRs and eliminate them if they want.
Mhm.
But if you're just buying a lot, you know, and you don't, it's not in a subdivision that doesn't have CCNRs, well then you're just at risk, you know, of what's gonna come up around you.
And at this point, the one that was presented today, they have sufficient size, but their zoning is a smaller zoning, but they have a large lot for that zone. And at that point, you know, it says, hey, you know, is that something we would allow in anyone? Because we have to be consistent in our treatment to everybody. But yeah, I mean, at that point, that lot is not part of the subdivision. It may have been when it was done, I don't know, but it's not part of.
It wasn't.
It
What?
wasn't part of Gales Acres, but
Wasn't
it's
part of
right
Gales
next,
Acres,
it's
it
right
wasn't
next
part of
to
Meadowbrook.
Gales Acres.
It wasn't part of Meadowbrook either. It was never part of any of
So
those.
at that point, a CCNR wouldn't have.
Covered them.
And it's in a R16. Gales Acres in R1.
Yeah,
And
'cause the zone
all
changes
the
right there.
R1s don't fall under this.
Right, if it was an R1, we'd say that's consistent with the usage of an R1. That would never been brought up.
Remind us what CCNR is.
Covenants.
Covenants, conditions, and
Restrictions.
restrictions. Or HOA bylaws would be another way
Yeah,
that they
Yeah.
could be taken care of.
Did you got it?
Like my brother lives in one, if he builds a shed, has to match the house, pitch of the roof,
because the CCNRs.
facade and because of his HOA and everything, yeah. So.
I don't know,
it's just never brought up.
I like the idea before of, personally, of, you don't build an auxiliary structure that's more than 30% of the footprint of your dwelling, unless without a special permit.
The thing is, that included all zones, including our R1s.
So in yours, your old house, your
Barn would have,
barn would have violated that. Not that it did, just as an example. So,
I'd have had to come and get a
permit.
permit.
And the way it wasn't a permit. It didn't, I think it restricted issues. But then it contradicted another one.
When I started to build it, it wasn't in the city.
I didn't mean to, I apologize.
I then come and ask to be in the city.
Well, there you go. Once you do it, then you ask to join the city, then your grandfather did. Apparently, everyone can do what you like that way. I don't know.
Gotta make sure you do it in the right order.
Right.
So anyway, we just wanted feedback.
Does the use of those buildings, I mean, does that play a part in our role as approving those permits?
It's all residential, it's all for household use,
Right.
for storage.
Personal.
Use it
Can't be
commercially,
commercial.
you can't park commercial buildings, vehicles in them, all personal use.
Like, I'm just,
So at
somebody,
that point, the personal use, if it came as a commercial use, it would be denied by the staff. But if they had a appeal, they could appeal that back to you guys. But if it doesn't fit the rules, it would be denied. And if it got appealed to you, we would expect that same denial, but then again,
Because it wouldn't follow within the
we wouldn't
ordinance.
follow it, but that would be the appeal process, that it could come as far as appeal process to you.
but what, I mean, I guess what usages are allowed in those metal buildings? Anything?
Anything, any personal use.
So-
Store use,
so they
storage,
decide-
Trailer.
So if they decide that they want to weld inside of it or
Yeah.
use it as anything like
As
that?
long as they're not fabricating things on a commercial
Okay.
level.
Anything you normally do in your garage on the side of the house is just like these are just our auxiliary structures for personal use.
And can we deny them based on use? The use that they plan on using them for? No?
If they were
Unless it's,
planned for commercial use.
unless it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
residential, yeah. Yeah.
But we wouldn't need to
would've
deny
denied
that
before.
because it would get denied before it ever got to us.
Right, unless it came as an appeal, which you would then expect that you would deny.
I guess the question is, are there any circumstances where we would deny a metal building
I think
as residential use in somebody's yard.
I think the question is more of, is there specific conditions you would set on that building if a building came and it wasn't, didn't match the property around it, similar to that one, that was, as previously been discussed, would you have been able to set conditions that said, well, the surface or the exterior needs to be, or something like that? Is there specific conditions in order to make it in conformity with the properties around it? But denying is not necessarily the question. The question is approve with conditions or approve? But what you're talking about is what conditions would you establish? And it can't be arbitrary.
And those conditions have to be already set as a standard elsewhere in the code. So.
Yeah, and do we have any?
So one of the examples in one of the training videos is somebody comes for conditional use for a dog kennel. And they want to set conditions on the noise. Well, if you have no noise ordinance, how can you set a condition? Because you have no standards for noise.
Right.
And so if we don't have a standard saying that the facade has to be this material or this or that,
That's kind
then
of what
there's
I'm
no
getting at
condition,
is
there's
if
no condition.
we
that-
don't have that. then-
Yeah, there's no conditions that can be applied.
So that discussion.
By the
is,
code.
Should we formulate those and what should those be? Because that would be another function of planning and zoning, is to recommend what those items should be, if they should have some. If they're not there right now, probably because planning and zoning never recommended what they should be. And if we need some, then we need input on what those should be so that they could be added. If you're gonna have conditions, what would that standard be? So similarly, we have standards we've adopted for Main Street that we had on our last meeting. So at that point, now we have some standards, what it would look like. We could say, okay, it needs to fit. I mean, if it was outside Main Street, we say, oh, it's conditional use, but it's close enough. We want it to fit the same standard. We can reference that as a standard and something measurable. So your point.
I mean, I rewatched to try and remember what, there's the videos on luau.utah.gov. You
The
watch
other
it.
one was number of dogs, sound,
Uh-huh.
smell.
Yeah. And those were things that you have to have a standard to be able to apply a condition. I mean, use a condition that you're not putting floodlights pointing towards the neighbors. We have standards already that say that, And so we could apply a condition like that any outside exterior lighting doesn't go into the neighbors,
Another one we have a standard with is a fence between residential and commercial. There's a rule.
Mhm.
But if you're approving something that's new, you could say, hey, this acts like commercial, looks like commercial, let's require that. Because at that point, it is consistent with the standard.
And I'll let you finish. To go back to our track record, all these individuals that have one of these buildings was to protect personal equipment that they own, trailers, vehicles, boats, almost each one of them. That's been their purpose, to protect what they own. And that's why they've done, and I believe the same as Mr. Thomas is here tonight. Same deal, he has vehicles, he has a large motorhome, our travel trailer that he wants to put in here, and that's been everybody. And that's something that should be part of, we're looking at the track record. What's the reason? Second is, I don't think I've had a single person show up to even question what's going on. But we're giving them the opportunity, so when it is there, we can't say that they didn't have the opportunity to participate in what's going on in the neighborhood.
I guess if we're talking about moving away from, having these come before us, I don't know. When I found out about that 30% thing, I like that in some ways, that somebody isn't going to build this huge, big building. They have a house and they're building another building 3 times the size of their house, say, in that particular area, and that you know, if I was living there next door, that would, you know, I mean, not saying that we wouldn't approve it, but I guess I would like then to have that come, and if there's a big building like that, to have that come and have a discussion and see how the neighbors feel about it and so forth before a big building like that came. And I guess I like that rule
You
somehow.
can't take up more than 50% of the property. You can't have it higher than the pitch of the house, so that you can't have it higher than, so there are some restrictions, 30%'s out, but there are still some others.
That are in there.
So
Which would be handled mostly in the building.
the 30% conflicted with the 50% of the lot.
Yeah.
saying, hey, you have two different standards, two different ones. And actually that 50% applies to RM13s, RM18s. R16 is 50% of the lot, R110 is 35, and an R120 is 20%. Otherwise, the area will lot be covered with buildings.
Roseanne, you had one, but did you appreciate a letter or would
I
you
did.
have cared?
I did. I think we all need to be aware of what's going on in our neighborhood, rather than just wake up one morning and have this surprise, oh, look, here's this metal building across the street from me. And they've started it today,
I didn't get any letter about Mr. Thomas's.
Whether there was 300 feet or not.
Because
300 foot road.
It's 300 feet, so I didn't know whether you'd be in 300 feet or not.
Kelly Kennington,
Probably not, yeah.
300 foot of property or
300 feet of property.
from the home, you know, because
Property line.
Probably not that close.
the guy at work got one and he's
So she has, you have the road in between and then also his north property.
73, yeah.
So if it was inside of Meadowbrook, there was probably those inside of there, maybe.
Yeah, it was
So you
down
have
on,
to go
it was on 1080, so it was to the east of it, so.
But to further this, if he'd have built this without a conventional construction, wood frame, this would have never come to zoning.
Right.
And we would have not have told him what his exterior could be covered with.
Mhm. Okay. Any other questions, comments? And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Oh, first I have that.
Motion by Lynn and a second by Nancy, all in favor?
Aye.
Ryan, do you have the GIS still pulled up? Click right where your mouse was on those trailers.
Are these favors?
No, to the,
South.
under the lot word, yeah. Who owns that? Because as of right now, that's listed as part of the right of way.
No, it's owned by the same.
That's what I figured, but I just wonder
It
something,
just changed hands.
the deer run stuff.
Well, this has been, might have been updated, so. Looks like Geo.
It's just been wrong for a while and I just wondered,
It's just been what?
it's been wrong for a while and I just wondered, is it
It's a
something
county
that
record, so.
the county messed up or is it something that,
We found several pieces of property that have changed hands and haven't been recorded for a while. I think the GSR.
well, it's just where there's no lines, it shows that, makes it look like that's an easement and did maybe Roosevelt owned it all of a sudden?
No, we're not claiming ownership of that
Okay.
one. Don't give us that one. All right.
Just looks funny,